Hi everybody, this is Francisco Gil-White for Management of Reality and Arutz Tov in this joint programming we're doing. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming Noga Arbel, who has been a policy strategy researcher previously with the Israeli Foreign Ministry. And I want her to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. I'm going to be asking her a little bit about her work and then about the current situation in Israel and the perception of Israel and how those two are connected. And the first thing I'd like to do before I ask you my first question is just to explain to my audience what hasbara means. Right? Yeah. So you can expand on it briefly. I just want to give a very short definition. So hasbara is a term used here in Israel and around the world in circles, in pro-Israel circles, to refer to the efforts to correct the lies and the misrepresentations that are usually made about the state of Israel or about the Jewish people. So that's called hasbara. Would you add something to that?
Well, yeah. The meaning of the word in Hebrew is actually to explain.
To explain.
And I think...
Comes from lehasbir.
Yeah, it comes from to explain. And I think the thing is that propaganda, which would be like the most available word in English, although they mean something completely different, is the closest thing. Well, it usually refers to someone trying to subvert consciousness rather than someone trying to set the record straight,
right.
Which is why we don't use that.
Right.
And so it's a notion that comes from Jews being in diaspora for so many years, I mean thousands of years, because you feel like you're constantly having to explain what it is that you're doing to people who don't know you. And because there's so many misconceptions about Israel, and again, you don't want to use the word propaganda because it indicates that you're lying when we're not. We're really just trying to set the record straight.
Good.
We use the word hasbara. It's been subverted by the people who are trying to make Israel look bad as it is. But I think a big part of the problem is the fact that we're still trying to explain ourselves, because nation states don't explain their needs, nor do they explain their existence. There's one country in the world that still has to answer questions of the validity of its existence. There's one. That's us. And I think hasbara is a big part of that problem, because once you invite the question, once you find yourself on the accused chair trying to say, no, we actually did right, you create a different dynamic where now you owe someone an explanation for your existence, which Israel does not.
Okay, but it seems to me that there's a difference between justifying your existence, which I agree that Israel doesn't need to do.
But again, that's what hasbara is.
Is it? Or could we say hasbara is, as you said, setting the record straight when somebody else tells a lie?
No, well,
no?
All countries, and I do mean that literally, all countries have an outreach program. We have a program in Israeli education that is funded by the Ministry of Japan that teaches Israeli children to do origami.
Okay.
All countries do this.
Okay.
It is a part of the normal discourse between countries. Some of it is maligned as propaganda when it isn't, and some of it is direct or indirect propaganda.
Okay.
But the idea is that the more people are aware of the better sides of a country, the more likely they are to at least be indifferent to it, which is not bad in international relations, because if you're indifferent to a country and you don't see it as a threat, you're not going to go attack it. Okay? So it is a part of the job of any political operative in the international arena to make good ideas of the country they represent,
in other words,
available.
To improve the perception of the country abroad.
And it's the job of every foreign office on the planet. It's one of the jobs of every foreign office on the planet. The only country that does hasbara is Israel. And those two are directly related, because Israel is the only country in the world that was founded based on international agreement in the UN, as well as its own ability to create itself, direct historical ties that go back 4,000 documented years to the country and an ability to hold the land. Okay, we have every possible justification in existence. No other country in the world actually has the whole set. We're the only ones, and still.
In other words, Israel is the country in the world that has the best established right to exist of any country.
Yes. And still, Israel's right to exist is the only one that is challenged. There are countries not in existence who have a better time of it. Now, part of it is the fact that for, cosmic reasons that we're probably not going to get to today, Israel, Jews attract attention regardless of what they do, no matter where they are. So, stands to reason, some of it comes from the fact that the attention is there, naturally.
Okay.
But a lot of it has to do with the way that we deal with it.
I see.
A lot of it has to do with the fact that we seem to have left the diaspora 76 years ago, but the diaspora is still very much alive in our hearts and minds, and we still find ourselves asking for permission to exist.
Sounds to me, when you use the word diaspora, my Zionist ears hear the word exile, galut.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
really what you mean?
Yeah, I mean the Gola.
Explain to our non-Jewish viewers what people in the Jewish culture mean by galut in psychological terms.
Well,
Exile.
the people of Israel belong to the land of Israel. It was promised and ordained by God, creator of the earth. When the Jews were exiled from
their own land.
from Judea 2,000 something years ago by the Romans, Jews believe it was a punishment by God. No other entity can separate between the people of Israel and the land of Israel. It was a punishment for our sins. It was not a victory on the Romans' side as much as it was our loss.
I see.
And we spent 2,000 years wondering. Now you have to understand, in normal situations, people who emigrate will have lost most of their hold on their origin by the fourth generation. Like you will have interesting customs
They
and
end
a
up
name,
blending into
but not
whatever
more than
place
that.
they're in.
Jews never did that. We were always a separate entity. We also, you have to remember, we lost sovereignty of the land. Jews never actually left. There was always Jewish presence here. It was just subdued by conquerors.
Right, so Jews remained here.
Yes,
there
under
was-
conquest. Jews
Right,
are the
exactly.
indigenous people. They remained under conquest for 2,000
So
years.
many Jews remained here, but they were oppressed by conquerors.
Yes, that is another, it's important to understand, that is another concept of the Gola.
Okay.
It's not just exile from the land, which is bad enough as it is. It's the loss of
Sovereignty.
of liberty. It's the loss of your ability to freely worship the Lord.
Got it.
Okay? So the concept of Gola has more to do with that notion of subjugation. And again, that is God's punishment to his children.
see.
When we were free, we abused the liberties to subjugate our fellow Jews.
Okay, but tell
That's
us-
the punishment.
Tell-
Okay, so you spent 2,000 years being subjugated as punishment for trying to subjugate others. The notion of galut
Wait a minute.
is
Punishment for trying to subjugate others?
yeah.
What do you
Judaism
mean?
is a religion of freedom. The notion is that if you're slave to God, you are slave to no other.
Yes, but the Romans came and conquered the Jews and then committed genocide.
Yeah.
How are
No, before that. The Romans came and conquered the Jews because the Jewish kingdom was being subverted. Because
because the Jewish kings were
Jewish
not behaving
kings-
properly.
the original separation of powers is Jewish. It comes from
Yes.
the Bible. You separate between the king, the priest, or judge, depending on Nazeh, and the prophet. That's
Right.
how it works. Mamlechet Hashmonai, the kingdom of Hashmonai, they were priests. They were both priests and kings. That is not allowed. You
Right.
cannot force Judaism down anyone's throat. That's not how it works. You
Right, but
cannot
it seems to
enforce
me it seems to me that what you're describing is a betrayal of the Jewish tradition by the Jewish ruling elite.
Yes.
It's not clear to me why the Jewish people should be punished with genocide at Roman hands because the king misbehaved.
The notion of the Jewish nation is a lot more complex then you just made a separation that doesn't actually, why is it, Judaism really is the origin for the notion of democracy. But
I agree.
But the way that it works is you are at the same time individual and part of a collective. And you understand that all individuals have a responsibility for the behavior of that collective. And if you look at the way that the Bible describes it, as long as there was no king, as long as there was no construct that was agreed by the people, then the people of Israel throughout the book of Judges are judged because of their own sins. Once you have a king, you get punishment and reward based on the behavior of that king. Because the notion of Knesset Israel, of the people of Israel, is a more complicated one than just saying that separation you just made. It's a very modern one. But the basic tenets of Judaism is that if you have a king, you chose it. And if you remember, Judaism, it's a choice to have a king. If you choose to give your agency to someone else, you are by that act of giving the agency responsible for their actions. When people,
So in other words, it is just then, in your view, or in the Bible's view.
I'm not gonna even question the justice of
But you can
divine justice. That's
if,
not
if
how.
you don't question it, that means you agree with it.
No, it doesn't. It means that when dealing with divine justice, you need to have a certain amount of humility. I couldn't possibly fathom what
Abraham was not so humble. When God was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah.
He had a debate with him. That's different.
Yes, and what were the first words out of Abraham's mouth when he found out what God was about to do?
Abraham is asking God if there were 50...
No. The first words out of Abraham's mouth.
I'm sorry, the verse isn't coming to me right now.
He said, you can't do that.
Yeah, but he explains that it has to do with justice. This is a debate based on the notion of
Right, so
divine
Abraham
justice.
questioned God. He said, can the God of the law violate the law? This was his question for God.
But and that's a question that keeps on going, and Moses has ongoing debates with him
I agree.
to this day. And honestly, picking us was like...
Wait, but if Abraham and Moses can question God, it seems to me the Torah is implying that we have a right to...
Not just the Torah is implying that. I think the point is that what God is trying to do is trying to make us free. I think part of it isn't that you defy the justice, but it is that you have a discussion with it. But both Moses and Abraham...
Hold on. What is freedom?
Moses and Abraham were having that discussion with the divine right because they had the ability to change it.
But let me put something on the table because I'd like to discuss it with you. I think this is very interesting. You said things that I agree with, and then you said things I disagree with. So I just want to point out where the bone of contention is. So you said that Israel is about freedom. Judaism is about freedom. I agree with that. You also said Judaism is the origin of the separation of powers, which the function of which is to make sure that totalitarianism cannot be imposed on people. Right? I agree with that too. I also agree that the Jewish ethos, Jewish ethics and political development and law contain all the principles and ideas necessary for democracy.
But they're founded on the notion that it is a choice.
Okay, fine. I agree with that too.
Okay.
So now where I'm having difficulty is when you say that you can't question this idea that if the king misbehaves, the entire people should be, hold on, let me just finish, that the entire people should be punished. And I mentioned Abraham and Moses questioning God because they questioned God precisely when God was getting ready to deliver collective punishment. He was going to deliver collective punishment.
But he did deliver that collective punishment.
Right. Oh, I'm not saying he didn't. My point is that Abraham and Moses questioned him.
Okay, look.
So wait, let me, I'm not done.
Sorry.
I want to lay out the disagreement. So it sounds to me that when you say you can't question, what you're saying is that you are not free. It seems to me...
I'm not saying you can't question.
Okay. I misunderstood you.
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
I think you need a certain amount of humility when you come to question divine justice. Not everything... I had a beef with Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai for like a year before I realized, it's too complicated to explain. I think the point is that you don't always see the full picture. So when you come to challenge divine justice, at the very least, you should have a very, very, very large amount of humility going into it. And I was trying to say that I hesitate to argue for or against divine justice in the sense that I don't think I have the whole data. But I will say this. Democracy and liberty are founded on individual responsibility. When you argue that punishing the whole collective because of the actions of one king, and there's a difference between one man and one king, or one woman and one king, that is unjust.
Okay.
And I would argue very, very, very
strongly?
Not strongly. I would carefully.
Okay.
That a king without a kingdom isn't a king. I used to, when I was trying to explain this to my children, not this, but I was trying to explain the notion of the power of the prime minister. I was like, you have a prime minister, okay? You have become the prime minister. You've been ordained, but you don't have an army and nobody's following you. How strong are you as a prime minister? The president of the United States is the most powerful leader in the world. But that's not because of the identity of the person. It's because of the strength of the country that he is leading.
Okay.
Okay? To that end, Putin was not really elected, but is leading a much weaker country. And that country isn't weaker because it lacks in resources or in people. It's weaker because the people that are subjugated to President Putin are subjugated to him. So the strength or the ability of a king to subjugate a people in the same notion is derived from the strength of the nation that he presides over.
But do you think
so the separation that you made between the failure of the ruling elite and the responsibility of the people who have allowed it is problematic. It's specifically problematic for the Jewish ethos of, again, individual responsibility. It is your responsibility to act to the best of your ability to make sure freedom is maintained.
Okay, so
if you choose to subjugate yourself to a king, and the Bible warns you from that again and again and again, you are responsible for the consequences of that choice.
What happens when you don't choose? What happened when the king and his mercenaries impose themselves on you?
Well,
are you then still responsible?
No, I'm sorry, but some of the choices you're faced with are not particularly good ones, but they're still a choice. All men, this is the American Declaration of Independence, all men are endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, I know that we got used to, in the 21st century, to think of rights as something someone gives to you.
You're changing the subject.
No, I'm not. A right isn't necessarily something that...
I'm not talking about rights.
But I am. Hang on. It's not necessarily something someone has to give you. It is also something that you are responsible to use.
But don't victims exist? Are victims non-existent on this planet?
You can choose to be a victim.
Can't you be made into a victim against your will? Is that impossible?
I don't think that the fact that Israel has succumbed to...
No. This is a general principle question.
I know, and I'm trying to explain it through an example. If you don't like the example, I'll try a different one.
Okay.
It is absolutely the responsibility of Israel as a nation that we are at a position where a terror organization can kidnap 1,200 of our people and murder them.
Okay.
We have allowed that to happen. That does not negate Hamas's complete and utter 100% responsibility for the evil that they have brought upon us. But along the way, we made choices. We could have made different ones that allowed that evil to fester. If you make choices that allow evil to grow, you will, it's not even, you will by the edicts of reality, you will pay the price. One of the worst, every time someone in Israeli security says that, I cringe. We can give back all of the prisoners that are responsible for the murder of hundreds of Israelis, because we'll know how to deal with them later. That right there is a really bad choice that brought us to the position where we are now negotiating with people who kidnap people. That is how we got there, because we made, as a nation, we made choices to make ourselves weaker, to reduce our liberty.
Let me try once again to corner you into answering a question on general principles.
That wasn't an answer of general principles.
It was not. Let me say why. I'm not interested in Jews. I'm not interested in Israel. This is a general principle question. Do you believe it is at all possible for a ruling elite to betray the people in such a way? So it is possible for something to happen that is the fault of the ruling elite without being the fault of the people. Is that possible?
No. I believe that the ruling elite can betray the people that have chosen them, but not that there weren't choices along the ways that have allowed that position to continue, to come about.
So you don't consider it possible for there to be a situation where the ruling elite is guilty and the people are innocent? That cannot happen.
No, because the way that you become a ruling elite is by siphoning to you the fruits and labor.
Perfect. I understand your position. No, that is a general principle answer. So if we were to apply that general principle, say, to not a Jewish context, say to China, that would mean that the Chinese are not innocent for the crimes they suffered under Mao.
No, not at all.
They're guilty.
Yeah.
The Chinese people are guilty for the murder of the Communist Party visited upon them, even though they were not even communists.
How can they not be? The one thing that is more powerful than one person is two people, by definition. Now, it is always more complicated than that. You know, I just read a very interesting explanation of what God did to the heart of Pharaoh. They say that when the 10 plagues were visited upon him, God has strengthened his heart. And we like to, and the regular translation or the regular explanation is that God made Pharaoh not give up. And a more nuanced approach to it would be that God made Pharaoh make a choice without the pressures of his people around him. He didn't make him make a bad choice. He said, you make that choice. And made sure that he makes the choice without the external pressures that are usually brought upon a ruler. Like, so he strengthened his heart to make the individual choice. That nuance is relevant.
The text doesn't say strengthened his heart. It says that it hardened his heart so that he wouldn't feel compassion.
Yeah, but
and he would not let the Jewish people go.
Actually, it says hikshait libo, but that.
What does that mean?
No, in Hebrew, make it hard does actually, hang on, make it hard does actually mean that, but it can also translate to what I just said. It can also translate to a notion of you being able to do something.
Okay, well, let me give you
But no, I want to go back to your China example.
Okay, go.
Because the nuance is relevant there as well. You can teach a people to be subjugated. It is something that is brought upon them. The reason why Moses had to grow up in the house of Pharaoh is because people who have been subjugated make for bad leaders, because the way that you think is different. So as time progresses, you can create a situation of willing subjugation. You accept, it's Akal Tom kind of situation where you accept the restrictions of your situation as just, even when they're not.
Let me. I would like to share with you what we see from the outside. So I'm not Jewish. My work is strongly focused on a defense of Israel. My audience is full of Christian Zionists who are very interested in the defense of Israel. And this community is very frustrated when we see Jews in Israel blaming themselves and blaming Israel for things we don't think they should be judged. And the discourse I'm hearing from you is that no matter what happens to Israelis, no matter how much violence, they deserve it. That seems to be what you're saying.
No, I'm sorry. That's
Can you see
that's
how
where-
people might hear it that way?
No, I do.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Don't you think you should be more careful instead of giving ammunition to the enemies of
No,
Israel?
hang on. I was trying to explain that when I was explaining Hamas. We're all responsible for our own choices. Okay. Now the thing is, in I don't know how it translates in the King James, but the notion in the Bible is "Meharsaich u'machrivaich mimech yatzui." You will be your own ruination. It's not the people who ruin. The only people who can ruin the Jewish nation is the Jewish nation, not because others aren't evil, but because, again, and it's true for everyone, not just for Jews. You need to make good choices, okay? Because.
But don't you see how difficult it is for us
I do,
to
and I'm trying
defend Israel when within Israel you're saying that you're guilty?
Those are two completely separate notions, and I understand completely why you're saying that, and I understand that
it's very difficult for us. We're working very hard to defend Israel, and you're supposed to be defending Israel, and you're saying Israelis are guilty of everything that happens to them.
I'm absolutely not saying that.
Well, it sounds like it.
I know, but I think there's a difference between the judgment of the Lord and everybody else's, and hang on. So I'm going to.
But the question here is how you speak and how it is interpreted.
I understand that. But we were talking about something else, and I see how we got here, but I think we took a wrong detour somewhere.
Okay.
I'm going to put the responsibility aside for a second and just say that I think it has to do more with the state of mind of I made a mistake and I can fix it, and I am not the victim of somebody else. And I'm going to put that aside for a second, and I'm going to go back and address Hamas is evil. The people who support him are evil, and they're supporting evil. And if they ever manage to railroad Israel, they're next, and they are making very, very bad choices for themselves. And none of what I said before should be interpreted as saying anything different. Right? The people. See, what you said was take it one step further. I said that that we as a nation have made ourselves weaker and more susceptible for attack. And to an extent, we even invited the attack. But see, that does not negate the responsibility of the other side not to attack.
I want to go back to first principles, to general principles.
The general principle is that everybody's responsible for their own choices.
Exactly. And
including the people who choose evil.
Okay, can I try to produce an example where the ruling elite is guilty but the people are not? It seems to me
I don't understand why you would make that separation, especially not in democracy.
I'm about to try to make the argument. So it seems to me that if the ruling elite lies to the people, they have information that they don't share with the people, and then they present the people with choices, and the people make a choice, but they're making a choice based on a lie, because the ruling elite has misrepresented reality.
Yes.
Okay. In that particular situation, can't we say that the people are innocent and the rulers are guilty?
First of all, the guilt and innocence of the rulers is not necessarily connected to the guilt or innocence, or I don't understand why we're having the discussion about guilt. I don't think,
because you are blaming the Israelis.
No, I'm not.
That's why.
I'm not. And now I get it. It's the wrong word. I was talking about responsibility, and you were talking about guilt.
Fine, let's talk about responsibility.
Let's talk about responsibility. There's a very big difference. Because when
I'm happy to talk about responsibility.
When I say that we're responsible, what I mean is we have within our means the ability to change the situation. This does not have to be the situation. We do not have to be victims. I agree with that. Okay, great. So that's something completely different. And again, and you're mixing up also, the others' choices and divine justice, and that's not the same thing. You were asking me about galut, and I was explaining the galut. Okay, I want to take us back to 10 minutes ago.
I think galut, my definition of galut is that you are always to blame, that you can't defend yourself, that you have to apologize even when you're right.
Okay, let's sort this out. Okay, galut is exactly that. It is a situation, but it's also a state of mind.
But isn't that your state of mind?
Hang on. Galut is a situation of subjugation. It is a notion of lack of freedom. It's a situation where you keep having to ask someone for permission.
Yes.
I don't believe that's the way we have to continue living. I think that we've been independent for 76 years, and I think it's time we stopped asking for permission.
Okay.
But in order to do that, you have to first realize that that is what you're doing. And when you spend 76 years explaining your existence, you have not removed yourself from the notion of subjugation. You are still asking for permission. And I think it's time we stopped asking for permission.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you believe that Israelis need to change their psychology, and I agree with that.
Okay.
But I'm still interested in the possibility that something happened here
Absolutely.
For which the Israelis are not responsible, for which the rulers of Israel are responsible. I think that distinction is possible when the
I think
people...
it's the other
Let me
way
finish,
around.
please.
No, I
when
understand,
the,
but I think
when
it's
the people running Israel tell lies to
Yes.
the people of Israel...
Absolutely.
And present choices for the people of Israel, and then the people of Israel make a choice based on lies that the people above them told them, then the people of Israel are not responsible. The people responsible are the people lying to them.
Okay.
Doesn't that make sense?
Again-
Moral sense?
Again, I want to separate between responsibility and guilt.
I'm not talking about guilt. I'm
Yes,
talking
you
about
are.
responsibility.
No,
I
no.
said responsibility
Why
every
don't you
single
define
time.
for me what responsibility
Okay,
is?
so if I make a bad choice,
Yeah.
because the reality was misrepresented to me,
Okay.
right? The choice is still a bad one. It's not a big choice because I was ignorant. It's
And
still a bad choice.
Are you still going to pay the price for that?
I am going to pay the price, but I'm not responsible.
Uh-huh, but-
I didn't know what reality was.
No. It means you're not guilty. That's the differentiation that I want to make, okay? And I want to say something else. I think a big part of the problem in Israel is that for many years, we had a leadership that didn't push back against, like, you keep describing two echelons. I'd like to describe three, okay? Because in Israel, we have an elected government, we have an unelected
No, but
bureaucracy.
again, I'm sorry.
Hang on,
I'm sorry.
you
I'm
know,
sorry.
This is important for
I'm just
Israelis.
talking about general principles. I want to know if you believe, because I believe this is an aspect that many Jews share, a psychological aspect. I want to know if you would ever declare the Israeli Jews free of responsibility. Because if
For what?
For some choice that they collectively made based on false information.
How are you free of responsibility for a choice you made?
Okay, let me give you an example.
Morally, how
I
do you
will
do
give you
that?
an example from Israeli history.
Okay.
The Oslo Accords were signed in the period 1993-1995.
Yeah.
What Israelis were told by their own leaders, by their own elected leaders, was that Pilo Fatah, what we now call the
Israelis were lied to. I get it. I'm not, again.
I want to say what the lie was because
Okay.
it's very important.
No, okay, fine.
Israelis were told that Pilo Fatah, what we now call the Palestinian Authority, had changed its stripes. It had changed its ideology.
Yes.
It was no longer supposedly interested in murdering all the Israeli Jews and
We have a
destroying
partner for peace. I know, I was here.
and destroying the state of Israel. Yes, but not everybody.
was a lie.
Not everybody in the audience
And
knows.
that was a lie.
Okay, so, but hold on, it was not the extent of the lie. So it was a lie that Pilo Fatah had changed its ideology. But they also didn't share with the Israeli Jews that Pilo Fatah was the creator of Iran. Did you know this? This was explained on the front page of the New York Times in 1979.
If I make a bad choice based on bad information, will I pay the price for it?
No, the question is, of course you will pay the price.
So I will still be
course.
responsible
Why?
for the concept because that's how it works.
Well, this is like saying...
I'm not guilty.
Hold on.
I'm not guilty. That's the separation I'm trying to say. It's not my, to that extent, it's not my fault, but in reality, I will still be paying the price for it.
Well, of course.
So that is what I mean when I say responsible.
Well,
And-
I don't think suffering makes someone responsible. Somebody can suffer for reasons that they have nothing to do with.
But what is the suffering there for?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
you're a man of faith.
If somebody
Hang on,
rapes a
you're a
woman,
man of faith.
the woman is responsible because she suffered? I don't think that makes any
she's
sense.
not Let's take your example.
She's
okay?
a victim,
no,
right?
No, hang on.
She's a victim.
No, she doesn't have to be a victim. She suffered. There's a very, very, very big difference.
She's not a victim if she was raped?
No. Victims are weak and powerless. The fact that someone attacked you doesn't mean that you have to be their victim. One of the big things that Israel has not properly done in many years is fight back.
Well, I agree with that.
So if Israel
But why,
chooses,
why is that the fault of the people if the leaders are lying to them?
Why are we talking about fault again? I don't want to talk
Or
about
responsibility.
Okay, when you talk about fault, you create victims. When I say I'm not a victim, I don't mean I wasn't viciously attacked. My parents live in Alumim. I can't even begin to describe to you the horror of the 7th of October, because Alumim is one of the places that was attacked. Okay? I don't think that the fact that my parents were attacked means that I am now powerless against my attackers. If you choose to be a victim, and that's a choice, then you have to go explain yourself to the world and ask for permission to annihilate the people who attacked my parents.
Okay.
I'm not asking for anyone's permission because I am not a victim. And I don't need anyone's permission to go kick ass.
I think I understand now what you're saying. So you're saying if
But
somebody...
it is my responsibility to go kick ass.
If somebody attacks you, it is your responsibility to fight back.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you are responsible for the attack.
No.
Okay.
No.
So if Israeli rulers lie to the Israelis,
Yeah.
and by lying to the Israelis help produce an attack against Israelis, Israelis should defend themselves. I agree with you.
Okay.
But they are not responsible for the fact that they were attacked.
Again, on a very surface level, you're right. The problem with that, no, I agree, okay? The head of Shin Bet lied to Israelis and made...
How did they lie?
No, it was his job to sound the alarm. And
About
he knew
what?
About the attack coming. I'm very, very small.
You're talking about October 7th.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
I know, and I'm going to talk about that for a
Oslo.
second, but hang on. I'm talking about October 7th because I'm going to go from the individual to the general. Now, the person who didn't sound the attack is absolutely 100% responsible for how bad it went. And the people who weren't even, arming the borders are absolutely responsible for the fact that they managed to penetrate. And the people who banished against international law, the Israeli leaders who banished 8,500 Jews from Gaza against the direct edicts of the Geneva Conventions are directly guilty for the fact that Hamas has managed to become as strong as he is.
Well, I think I agree with all of that.
People, and if we keep going back, we'll eventually get to the Oslo Accords. But do you understand how many people we're talking about at this point?
Well, it seems
Do you understand we're talking about a generation?
Yes, but it seems to me we're talking about almost the entire Israeli ruling elite.
So, absolutely. But I'm going to add something to this.
But what explains that? So this is where I'd like to come to. What explains that the entire Israeli ruling elite seems to be an enemy of Israel? What explains that?
Part of it, again, is the notion of subjugation. And I think, again, and this is where we're getting to the slightly mystical aspects of it. You spend, as a nation, 2,000 years in perpetual subjugation. It's not as easy to shake as just coming in and saying, okay, this is our country.
So who are Israeli rulers subjugated to?
No.
Who is the boss of Israeli rulers?
Subjugation is, first and foremost, you're going straight to conspiracy theories. And I want to talk about...
I just asked a question.
I know.
You said they were subjugated.
Yeah.
Who are they subjugated to?
I said they suffer from a consciousness of subjugation. And those are slightly different.
Well, so who are they subservient to? Who are they subservient to?
Looking for permission.
From whom?
That's a very good question, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that
Well, why don't you try to answer it?
I am.
Who do they need permission from?
It doesn't matter. It's not that it doesn't matter, because if it's a psychological sense of subjugation is that you need permission to do something.
I think it's obvious. They're always asking permission from the U.S. bosses.
No, from the U.S., from the UN. It doesn't matter. My point is that the fault is with the people who want anyone to take responsibility for them.
Yes, you always want to blame. You want to blame the Israeli Jews no matter what.
Exactly.
Why? Why can't the Israeli Jews
No. You're
be innocent of something?
They are innocent. Hang on.
This is what makes Hasbara so difficult for the Christian Zionists. Don't you see?
But
we are on the outside trying to protect Israel
Francisco,
from the lies. Hold on, from the lies that people say about Israel.
But they're lying.
And here you are within Israel saying that the Israeli Jews are guilty.
I'm not.
You are.
No, I'm not. I said that there's a complete difference between responsibility and guilt at least 5 times throughout this conversation.
It doesn't. There is no clear distinction there.
But I made the distinction. Okay, let's try again.
I think you should make our job easier. You should help us defend Israel.
I agree with that, but you took this to a philosophical discussion that I wasn't prepared to. But you did ask a question, and then
okay, fine.
If you want to go back to the thing is this, okay, and maybe the distinction is also the difference between what you say to an internal and external crowd. And my rule is that I try to be as honest as possible, no matter what the audience is.
Well, that's fine, but there should be a rigorous way of establishing responsibility and/or guilt.
But again,
it can't be that no matter what happens, Israeli Jews are guilty or responsible.
Guilty.
Or responsible.
No, because guilt would indicate that there's a punishment that Hamas has dealt that is somehow the Jews are deserving. And I didn't say that. I said that individually, and this is the level you keep not allowing me, like on the surface, there are specific people who failed and who did so deliberately and should be punished.
Why is that anybody's fault but those people?
We allowed those people to take office. We're not responsible for their crimes.
If you lie to me
we
right
are
now,
responsible.
If you lie to me right now, I am not allowing you to lie. I'm not allowing you to lie. You choose to lie to me. I never allowed it.
But
so if Israeli leaders lied to the Israeli public, the Israeli leaders never said, hey, go ahead and lie to us. There was never any communication like that.
How do you make that distinction? Okay, you know what? No, hang on. Stop. You are making... You're putting together two things that I think do not belong together. Okay. And I want to go back to your original question. You said that you want me to make it easier for you to defend Israel.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. Israel does not need defending. That was my original point. And that is also the only effective defense. I don't need to explain why it is that I attacked Hamas. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't have to justify my actions to you because I am a sovereign nation. I don't need permission.
Good.
I don't.
Good.
I don't, and when I say responsibility, I mean that more Israelis need to say this. I mean the more Israelis need to think this. And as long as Israelis are asking the world in, let me give you an example, okay? For reasons beyond my comprehension, and the woman should be in jail, the chief prosecutor of the army is not only trying to prosecute based on absolute fabrications soldiers who were responsible for keeping the terrorists of October 7th in Sde Eiman. She has allowed her staff to release completely fabricated videos from a completely unrelated incident, arguing that it proves that these people should be tried. Now, my problem with that actually isn't the leak per se. My problem with that is, for some reason, Israeli prosecutors seem to operate under the assumption that they are subjugated to the ICJ and that they should hold Israeli criminal justice court, International Court of Justice, that they should, for some reason, hold Israeli soldiers to a standard that Israelis did not choose for themselves.
Okay.
And they're trying to tie the hands of Israeli soldiers and not allow them, not only defend their country, not even allow them to defend themselves. We have ridiculous orders in place under which Israeli soldiers are allowed to shoot to kill in Gaza people who they know are Hamas, and I don't know if you know that, but Hamas is the only army in the world that wears their uniform during a ceasefire and go to work wearing regular clothes. But you're only allowed to shoot to kill Hamas and Islamic Jihad.
If they're wearing their uniform.
If you know that they're Hamas and Islamic Jihad.
Right.
And if you come across I don't even remember the name of the organization that kidnapped the Bibas family and then brutally murdered children with their bare hands, those people you're not allowed to shoot to kill, only neutralize. This is an edict accepted by a very specific group of Israeli, it's not even lawmakers because they didn't make the rules, they are making it up, but they don't have the authority to do that.
Okay.
That is tying Israel's hands in its battle.
Okay,
and
so
what's
hold on.
worse is, because we're
let me ask you a question about this.
The argument for the Israeli people of these idiots is that this is how we show the world that we are better than Hamas. As if I need to show the world that I'm better than Hamas. This is how we show the world that we're abiding by international law. This is not international law. This is made up bullshit that is supposed to somehow make us look to the world as if we're more moral than anyone else.
Okay, I agree with that, but I want to
justify the fact that I'm shooting at people who are shooting at me.
I agree with this, but I perceive a contradiction. It seems to me that these rules of engagement, which I agree with you, are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Those are rules of engagement that the people running Israel decided on.
No. But remember I tried to explain to you and you weren't listening. The people who are elected to run Israel are not actually running the country. We are in the midst of horrible aristocratic revolution. It's a coup.
It's a coup. Yeah. Okay, so let me rephrase.
So the person who made these rules is not taking them from Israeli law, which is how it's and she's even not taking them from international law, because international law requires reciprocity. International law only protects the people who abide by it. If you kidnap people in the middle of a war, you are no longer covered by any international law known to man.
All right, so allow me to paraphrase what you're saying. So you're saying it's not even the elected rulers who are imposing these rules of engagement.
Yeah, it's a silent aristocratic coup.
There's a judicial coup going on in Israel, and those are the people imposing these rules of engagement. Yes. Are the Israeli soldiers who have these rules of engagement imposed on them responsible for what the coup leaders are imposing on them?
No.
They're not responsible. So then
They're responsible, but what are they responsible for?
Evidently, you want to find something they're responsible for. That seems to be your bias.
No, it's not a bias at all. You are only subjugated if you choose to accept the subjugation. They're responsible to say no.
But you just told me the people imposing these rules of engagement were not elected.
Yes.
Nobody chose them. So there's no choice. It was imposed.
So you know what the big difference in Israel now is, for the first time ever? That the soldiers and their parents and their friends are saying no. That the battle for who gets to make the rules is actually being waged, and we're taking back our liberty.
Well, good.
This means that up until now, we've allowed them to subvert it. Now, I'm not saying that it is absolutely the fault and guilt of the people who set these rules, that the consequences are their fault and their guilt.
But they should take their government back.
But it is incumbent, it is our responsibility to take our liberty back. Nobody else is going to give it to us. And this is where we're coming back to rights and hasbara. As long as we're asking the nations of the world to agree with us and to accept us and to see us for the just people that we are, and we really are just people, but as long as we're asking for it, we're never going to get it.
Okay, but
when we believe that it is our divine right to live here free of subjugation, that reality will come to pass.
Okay.
We are not guilty for anything that Hamas did, and we are not guilty for the choices that the legal aristocrat anarchists are making.
Good.
We are responsible for stopping them.
Yes.
And
I agree with that.
If you want to take it to the war, there seems to be this psychosis in Israel amongst specific people, I'm not one of them, who keep asking for us to find someone else to take over Gaza when we get rid of Hamas.
Right.
No one else is going to take over for Gaza. Israel, from now until forever, from the river to the sea, Israel will be free. No other sovereign will be here. It will be Jewish sovereignty from here until eternity. And as long as we're asking anyone for permission to do it, we will not get it. Because once you ask for permission, you give the power to make the decision to someone else.
Good.
And
So
where sovereignty is involved, you don't ask for it, you take it.
All right, so we are agreed. I'm glad we find this agreement that Israelis are responsible for taking their government back, and also they should never be apologizing or asking for permission to defend themselves.
Ever again.
Good. But it seems to me that we still have a problem with the Israeli institutions, because what we see from the outside all the time is, for example, that the Israeli mainstream media is always finding reasons to blame Israelis or Israel collectively for anything that happens to the Israelis.
Yes.
So why does that happen? Why does the Israeli media and even the Israeli government so often behave as though they're working for the enemies of Israel? What explains that?
I absolutely refuse to speak for those people. I think it's
no,
evil.
but to explain it, to explain why it happens.
Again, no. Look,
Why do you think it happens?
Sometimes I look at people who are complaining about the fact that we're attacking in Gaza. Israelis who are complaining about the fact that, and it's like, it's as if there's, woke brain virus. I can't explain it any other way. These are people who are so deep. This is the evil of subjugation. These people are so deep into the subjugation psychosis. They're so deeply in Gola. I don't see how. Well, you're an academic. You know the fable of the cave, Plato's fable of the cave?
Sure.
They cannot conceive the sun. All they see is shadows. It's a mass psychosis. Now, it is incumbent upon the same people to slowly remove these people from office, preferably put them in a padded room somewhere, and and let them live out the rest of their lives telling themselves fables.
Practically,
but
how can that be done?
We have allowed the psychosis to run rampant for many years.
But how can this be done practically? Who do you think Israelis could elect who would clean house in this manner? Who can do this?
Look at what you just did. I spent the whole thing trying to explain what individual responsibility is, and you went straight for the king. You want someone else to clean up house for you.
No.
That's not how this works. You know how you clean. This is
really?
Is
that what you think I asked you?
You asked me who I can elect to clean up house. It's literally what you asked.
Right, exactly. So I'm saying, wait.
It doesn't matter who you elect.
It doesn't?
It matters what you demand that they do. We have not demanded.
Okay. In
30 years of this aristocratic coup going on, we have yet to actually demand that our leaders put a stop to it.
That's an excellent point. I love it. So the first thing that has to happen is that Israeli consciousness has to be transformed so that they demand that somebody clean house.
So you know where you start with that?
I agree. But hold on.
With what you and I are doing right here, with the free media, whenever I speak like in front of an audience, there's like a moment there, like at least 10 minutes into the lecture, where you see people are actually trying to breathe deep and relieve.
Right.
You know why?
Right.
Because by the fact that I allow myself to speak truth, I give them, I'm not giving them permission, but for the first time they see that they're not alone, and they give themselves permission to do it too. And the more people speak truth, and the more people demand truth of their leaders, the ability of the anarchists to subjugate us will be reduced. This is not who do you elect next kind of situation. There's no difference between Netanyahu now and Netanyahu a year and a half ago. The difference is the people and their demands of him.
I see.
This is how, and you remember I told you, we're going to get to where responsibility is national. We neglected our freedom for at least 30 years, and we allowed people to subvert it, and we are now paying the price for neglecting our freedoms.
Good.
It doesn't matter who replaces Netanyahu. If we allow whoever replaces him, no matter how good he is, to do the same thing, we will get the same thing. If we stand ground and we demand and we say, no, it does. My least favorite sentence in the Hebrew language is "Ze lo oved kacha." It doesn't work like that. Now, it's not in law. It's not in anything, but I try to make a suggestion to make something better and say, it doesn't work like that. I said, it could if you wanted it to.
Absolutely.
So we need to want, we need as a nation to want to be
To
free.
make it work differently.
Now, that does not negate the fact that Hamas is an evil concept. It's not Hamas. The notion of a Palestinian nation is a Nazi evil construct that is designed to undermine the existence of the state of Israel that we have allowed to continue for many, many years. That doesn't make me guilty for the sins of the Arabs. But I am responsible because I'm a free agent. I am responsible for eradicating evil whenever I can.
Good.
And I have not taken that responsibility. And it begins with saying, I am now taking responsibility. I want to eradicate the evil, and I'm not asking for anyone's permission to do it.
Okay, we have to close, I'm being told, but I'm very glad that we're ending on a strong note of agreement, because I do agree with you that Israelis need to take responsibility for taking their liberty back. And I also agree with you that that process of taking their liberty back begins with speaking freely and with injecting more freedom into the Israeli public discussion.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I hope we can have another one soon. Everybody, this is Francisco Gil-White for Management of Reality and Arut Stov in our joint programming. I remind you that we have a lot of content for you at managementofreality.com or franciscogilwhite.com, videos, articles, books, everything. And I hope you will visit us because there's a lot of material there that can help us understand better the Israeli situation and the more general geopolitical situation. Thank you very much for joining us, Noga.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope to do this again soon. Thank you very much.